Jessica Monroe, a 25-year-old design graduate from Columbia University, works as an intern at Pierce Designs in New York. She lives in a rundown apartment in Brooklyn, with only a few days left before eviction looms over her head. The rent is overdue and her bank account is empty. On a rainy evening in Times Square, the city buzzes with lights and noise, but Jessica feels invisible. She clutches her last dollar bill, a crumpled piece of paper she hopes will buy her a cheap loaf of bread to get through the night. As she hurries through the crowd, the bill slips from her cold fingers and flutters to the wet pavement. She bends down to grab it, desperate not to lose her only lifeline. At that moment, she collides hard with a man in a tailored suit. He steadies himself and looks down at her. His name is Daniel Pierce, the CEO of Pierce Designs. His sharp eyes take in her soaked clothes and trembling hands. "You're this desperate over $1?" he asks, his voice cold and cutting through the rain. Jessica, drenched and shivering, meets his gaze. "It's all I have left," she says, her tone defiant despite the exhaustion weighing her down. She expects him to walk away, another rich stranger dismissing her struggle, but Daniel doesn't move. He studies her for a long moment, rain dripping from his dark hair. Then he speaks again. "Work for me. Pretend to be someone named Margaret. I'll pay you $10,000 a month." Jessica freezes. The offer sounds absurd, almost like a cruel joke. She's never heard of this Margaret, and the idea of pretending to be someone else feels strange. But $10,000 a month is a fortune compared to her unpaid internship. It could mean a roof over her head, food on the table, a chance to breathe. "Why me?" she asks, suspicion creeping into her voice. Daniel's expression doesn't change. "You'll find out soon enough," he replies. "Yes or no?" Her stomach growls, and the rain soaks through her thin jacket. She thinks of the eviction notice taped to her door, the hunger gnawing at her insides. She has no choice. "Yes," she says, barely above a whisper. Daniel nods, as if he expected her answer. "Meet me tomorrow at 9 a.m. sharp, Pierce Designs headquarters," he says, then turns to leave. Jessica watches him disappear into the crowd, the dollar still clutched in her hand. She doesn't know what she's agreed to, only that it's a lifeline she can't refuse. The rain keeps falling, but for the first time in weeks, a flicker of hope stirs inside her. She tucks the bill into her pocket and heads home, her mind racing with questions. Who is Margaret? Why does Daniel need her? And what kind of man offers a stranger a job like this on a rainy street corner? Back in her tiny apartment, Jessica sits on her creaky bed, staring at the peeling walls. The place smells of dampness and regret. She's spent months chasing a dream job at Pierce Designs, but all she's gotten is coffee runs and unpaid overtime. Her internship ends soon, and without a miracle, she'll be on the streets. Daniel's offer is that miracle, strange as it is. She pulls out her phone and searches his name. Articles pop up instantly. Daniel Pierce, youngest CEO of Pierce Designs. Billionaire innovator takes New York by storm. His face stares back at her from polished photos, always serious, always distant. There's no mention of a Margaret anywhere. Jessica sets the phone down and lies back, the rain tapping against her window. She thinks of her childhood in a Brooklyn orphanage, the years of scraping by, the promise she made to herself to rise above it all. Maybe this is her chance. But something about Daniel's cold demeanor unsettles her. She closes her eyes, exhaustion pulling her under. Tomorrow, she'll walk into his world, a world of wealth and secrets she can't yet imagine. As sleep takes her, she doesn't realize that this collision over a single dollar will rewrite her entire life, pulling her from the shadows into a spotlight she never sought. The next morning, Jessica wakes to the sound of rain still drumming against her window. Her apartment feels colder than usual, the thin blanket barely keeping her warm. She checks the time. 7 a.m. 2 hours until she's due at Pierce Designs. She drags herself out of bed, her stomach empty, the dollar bill still in her pocket. She skips breakfast, knowing it's a luxury she can't afford, and pulls on her least wrinkled clothes, a faded blouse and black pants. The mirror shows a tired face, dark circles under her eyes, but she squares her shoulders. This is her shot, strange as it may be. At 9 a.m. sharp, Jessica steps into the gleaming lobby of Pierce Designs in Midtown Manhattan. The glass walls and marble floors make her feel small, out of place. She approaches the receptionist, who barely glances up. "I'm here to see Daniel Pierce," Jessica says, her voice steady despite her nerves. The woman raises an eyebrow but picks up the phone. Moments later, a tall man in a crisp suit appears, introducing himself as Daniel's assistant. "Follow me," he says, leading her to an elevator that hums as it climbs to the top floor. Daniel waits in a sleek office overlooking the city skyline. He's in a charcoal suit, his expression as unreadable as it was in the rain. "You're on time," he says, motioning for her to sit. Jessica does, clutching her bag. He slides a stack of papers across the desk. "This is the contract. Read it. Sign it." She opens the document, scanning the terms. $10,000 a month to impersonate Margaret. Confidentiality required. Termination at his discretion. It's straightforward but vague. "I want regular hours, 9 to 5, and health insurance," she says, looking up. Daniel tilts his head, a faint smirk tugging at his lips. "Fine, it's done." He scribbles a note on the contract and hands her a pen. She signs, her hand steady despite the whirlwind in her mind. With the ink dry, Daniel stands. "We start now. Come with me." He leads her out of the building and into a black car waiting curbside. They drive to a high-end salon in Manhattan, a place Jessica has only seen in magazines. Inside, stylists swarm her. They dye her brown hair a soft blonde, trim it into a sleek bob, and dress her in a tailored navy dress that costs more than her rent. A woman teaches her to walk in heels, to hold her head high, to speak with a quiet confidence she doesn't feel. "You're Margaret now," Daniel says, watching from a corner. "Who was she?" Jessica asks, catching his gaze in the mirror. "Someone I needed once," he replies, his voice flat. "That's all you get for now." Hours later, Jessica barely recognizes herself. The mirror reflects a stranger, polished and poised. Daniel nods approvingly. "You'll do." She follows him back to Pierce Designs, her new heels clicking on the marble floor. The transformation feels surreal, like stepping into someone else's life. But when she walks into the design department, reality crashes back. Rachel Ford, a junior designer who once mocked Jessica's thrift store clothes, stops mid-sentence. "What's this?" Rachel sneers, eyeing Jessica's new look. "From poor intern to paid pretender? Pathetic." Jessica straightens, her voice sharp. "I earn my money with my own hands. What about you?" Rachel flushes, turning away, but the words sting. Jessica feels the weight of every stare in the room. Daniel lingers near the door, watching the exchange. He doesn't intervene, but his silence speaks volumes. Jessica wonders if he's testing her, seeing if she'll crack. She won't. She's fought too hard to let someone like Rachel break her. Later, alone in his office, Daniel hands her a folder. "Your first assignment. A gala tomorrow night. You'll be Margaret there. Memorize this." Inside are details about Margaret, her favorite wine, her mannerisms, a vague mention of a past tied to the Pierce family. "Why all this secrecy?" Jessica asks. Daniel leans back in his chair. "You'll see when it matters." His evasiveness frustrates her, but the promise of $10,000 keeps her focused. That night, Jessica sits in her apartment, the folder open on her lap. The damp walls and flickering light feel farther away now, as if she's already leaving this life behind. She practices Margaret's soft laugh, her poised gestures, until her reflection feels foreign. The money will change everything, she tells herself. No more hunger, no more eviction threats. But Daniel's coldness gnaws at her. He's a puzzle she can't solve, a man who offers salvation with one hand and mystery with the other. She thinks of the orphanage where she grew up, the kids she left behind. Maybe this job could mean more than survival. Maybe it could mean giving back. The next day, Jessica arrives at the office early. Daniel waits in the lobby, dressed in a black tuxedo. "Ready?" he asks. She nods, though her stomach twists. They drive to a penthouse in Upper East Side, the city sprawling below like a sea of lights. "Stay close," Daniel says as they step inside. The room is filled with wealthy strangers, their laughter sharp and hollow. Jessica feels their eyes on her, judging, curious. She straightens her spine, channeling Margaret. Daniel introduces her as an associate, his hand brushing her arm briefly. It's the first time he's touched her, and it sends a jolt through her she doesn't expect. Halfway through the night, a man approaches Daniel, his voice low. "She looks like her," he says, glancing at Jessica. Daniel's jaw tightens. "She's not," he replies, steering Jessica away. "Who is that?" she whispers. "No one you need to know," he says, his tone final. The encounter leaves her uneasy. Margaret isn't just a name, she realizes. She's a ghost haunting Daniel, and Jessica is now part of that shadow. As the night wears on, she plays her role flawlessly, smiling, nodding, sipping wine she doesn't taste. But beneath the surface, questions burn. What has she stepped into? And why does Daniel look at her like he's seeing someone else? When they leave, the car ride is silent. Daniel stares out the window, lost in thought. Jessica breaks the quiet. "I did what you asked. Tell me something about her." He turns, his eyes dark. "Margaret was important. That's enough for now." She wants to push, but his walls are too high. Back in Brooklyn, she lies awake, the dress hanging in her closet like a stranger's skin. The $10,000 will hit her account soon, a lifeline she can feel, but she knows this is only the beginning. Daniel Pierce has pulled her into his world, a place of wealth and secrets, and there's no turning back. Jessica steps out of the car and into the glittering chaos of the Upper East Side gala. The penthouse glows with chandeliers, the air thick with perfume and the clink of champagne glasses. She adjusts her navy dress, feeling the weight of every eye in the room. Daniel walks beside her, his presence commanding attention without effort. "Stay close," he murmurs, his voice low as they enter the crowd. She nods, slipping into the role of Margaret with practiced ease. She smiles at strangers, mimics the soft tilt of Margaret's head from the folder, and answers questions with vague charm. To the guests, she's an associate of Pierce Designs, a poised figure at Daniel's side. But inside, her heart races. The room buzzes with wealth, men in tuxedos and women in gowns trading laughs and secrets. Jessica feels like an imposter, but she keeps her chin up. Daniel introduces her to a gray-haired investor, his hand brushing her arm for a fleeting second. The touch surprises her, a spark she quickly pushes down. "This is my associate," he says, his tone smooth. The man nods, uninterested, and moves on. Jessica scans the crowd, catching glimpses of curiosity in their glance. She wonders how many of them know the real Margaret, how many see through her disguise. Halfway through the night, a lean man with sharp eyes approaches Daniel. His voice is a whisper, barely audible over the music. "She looks like her," he says, his gaze flicking to Jessica. Daniel's jaw tightens, a flicker of tension crossing his face. "She's not," he replies, his words clipped. He steers Jessica away before she can ask who the man is. "What was that about?" she says, keeping her voice low. "No one you need to know," Daniel answers, shutting the question down. His evasiveness stings, but she lets it go. The night is long, and she has a role to play. As the hours pass, Jessica grows more comfortable in Margaret's skin. She sips wine she doesn't taste, laughs at jokes she doesn't find funny, and mirrors the elegance Daniel expects. But beneath the surface, questions simmer. Who was Margaret to him? Why does he need her ghost revived? She catches him watching her once, his eyes distant, as if seeing someone else. It unsettles her, but she pushes it aside. The gala ends late, and they leave in silence. The city lights blurring past the car windows. "You did well," Daniel says finally, his voice neutral. "Thanks," she replies, but she wants more, an explanation he won't give. Back in her apartment, Jessica kicks off the heels and collapses onto her bed. The dress hangs in her closet, a reminder of the night. Her phone pings with a bank alert, $10,000 deposited, The first payment from Daniel. The number feels unreal, a lifeline pulling her from the edge. She thinks of the orphanage in Brooklyn where she grew up, the peeling paint in cramped rooms. With this money, she could do more than survive. She could help. The thought sparks something in her, a purpose beyond the paycheck. But Daniel's secrecy lingers in her mind, a puzzle she can't crack. The next day, Jessica returns to Pierce Designs. She's still Margaret in public, but in the office, she's just the intern again. Rachel Ford corners her near the coffee machine, her smirk sharp. "Nice dress last night." "What's the game, Jessica? Playing dress up for the boss?" Jessica sets her jaw. "I'm working, same as you, maybe better." Rachel laughs, a harsh sound. "Keep dreaming, you're still the broke girl from Brooklyn." The words cut, but Jessica walks away, refusing to let Rachel see her flinch. She knows the truth. She's climbing out of that life, step by step. Later, in a quiet moment, Jessica pulls out her sketchbook. The gala lingers in her mind, the glamour, the tension. She starts drawing, turning the experience into designs, sleek lines and bold shapes. It's more than a hobby now, it's a way out. She uploads a few sketches online, offering freelance work. Within hours, offers trickle in, small jobs at first, then bigger ones. By the end of the week, she's earned a few $1,000s, enough to start a fund for the orphanage. The money feels different, earned on her terms, not Daniel's. It's a taste of independence she craves. But trouble brews outside her control. Vanessa Reed, Daniel's ex, watches from the shadows. She was at the gala, her eyes narrowing every time Jessica spoke. Vanessa knows Margaret, the real one, and Jessica isn't her. She corners Daniel at the office a few days later, her voice dripping with venom. "Who's the fake blonde? She's not Margaret." Daniel's face hardens. "She's none of your business." Vanessa smirks. "We'll see about that." She storms off, leaving a chill in the air. Jessica overhears the exchange from the hallway, her stomach sinking. Vanessa's hostility is a threat she can't ignore. That night, Jessica meets Daniel in his office. He hands her another assignment, a dinner with clients. "You're Margaret again," he says. She takes the folder, then hesitates. "Why does Vanessa care so much?" she asks. Daniel's eyes darken. "She's stuck in the past. Don't worry about her." His dismissal frustrates her, but she nods. The dinner goes smoothly, Jessica playing her part, but Vanessa's words echo in her head. She's not just a stand-in, she's a target now. When she gets home, she finds a note slipped under her door. "I know you're a fraud." No signature, but she knows who sent it. The next morning, Jessica's sketches gain traction online. A client pays her $5,000 for a custom design inspired by the gala's opulence. She transfers the money to a fund for the orphanage, a small step toward her goal. But the note haunts her. She calls Daniel, her voice tense. "Vanessa left me a message. She's on to me." He's silent for a moment, then says, "I'll handle it." She wants to believe him, but doubt creeps in. She's earning money, building a future, but she's also tangled in something bigger, something dangerous. Days later, at another event, Jessica overhears Daniel talking to Ryan, his younger brother. Ryan's voice is curious. "She's good at this, but who is she really?" Daniel replies, "She's what I need her to be." Jessica's chest tightens. She's useful to him, nothing more. Yet his touch at the gala, his rare moments of softness, confuse her. She's playing Margaret, but she's starting to feel the weight of being seen as someone else. Vanessa's threat looms and the orphanage fund grows, but Jessica knows she's walking a tightrope. One slip, and it could all come crashing down. Jessica sits in her cramped Brooklyn apartment, the note from Vanessa crumpled in her hand. The words, "I know you're a fraud," stare back at her, a silent accusation. She's been Margaret for weeks now, slipping into the role at galas and dinners, her bank account swelling with Daniel's payments. But the threat feels personal, a crack in the fragile world she's built. Her freelance designs are picking up too, with another $5,000 deposited into her orphanage fund. She's close to $20,000 now, enough to start real repairs, but Vanessa's shadow looms larger than her progress. She tosses the note aside and grabs her sketchbook, pouring her unease into sharp lines and dark shapes. It's late when she finally sleeps, the city humming outside her window. The next day, Jessica meets Daniel at Pierce Designs. His office is quiet, the skyline stretching beyond the glass. "Vanessa knows I'm not Margaret," she says, setting the note on his desk. He reads it, his face unreadable, then folds it neatly. "She's a problem I'll fix," he says, his tone firm. "Focus on the next event." Jessica frowns. "She's not just a problem, she's dangerous." Daniel meets her gaze, his eyes steady. "Trust me." She doesn't, not fully, but she nods. He hands her a new folder, Another Night as Margaret. She takes it, but the weight of his secrets presses harder. That night, Jessica joins Daniel at a client dinner in Soho. She plays her part, laughing softly, sipping wine, but her mind drifts. Afterward, as they walk to the car, she stops him. "I need more than trust. Tell me about Margaret." The street is empty, the air cool. Daniel hesitates, then speaks. "She was my first love. She died with my parents in a car crash 10 years ago." His voice is low, raw. Jessica softens. "I'm sorry." He looks away, the city lights reflecting in his eyes. "You're not her. I know that. But you're here." It's the closest he's come to vulnerability, and it shifts something between them. Back home, Jessica can't shake his words. She digs online, searching for the crash. Old articles surface. Pierce family tragedy claims 3 lives. A drunk driver, a rainy night, no survivors. But something feels off. The details are vague, the driver's name buried. She texts Daniel. "Was it really an accident?" He doesn't reply until morning. "Meet me tonight, we'll talk." Her pulse quickens. She's in deeper now, not just as Margaret, but as someone chasing the truth. At 8 p.m., Jessica arrives at Daniel's penthouse in Tribeca. The space is stark, modern, all glass and steel. He pours her a drink, his movements deliberate. "You want answers?" he says, sitting across from her. "Yes," she replies, holding his gaze. He exhales. "My parents were targeted. I've suspected it for years, but I have no proof." Jessica leans forward. "Targeted by who?" Daniel sips his drink. "People who wanted Pierce Designs. Rivals. Maybe family." She thinks of Vanessa, her venom. But there's more. "What about your grandmother?" she asks. His eyes narrow. "Margaret Pierce? She wouldn't." But doubt flickers in his voice. They spend hours combing through old files on his laptop. Jessica finds an encrypted email from a decade ago, buried in a forgotten folder. She's no hacker, but she knows someone who is, a friend from Colombia. She sends it off with a quick message. "Can you crack this?" By midnight, the friend replies, "Done. It's from a Reed account," mentions a payoff. "Reed, Vanessa's family?" He nods, his face grim. "And Thomas Grayson, our biggest competitor. They're linked." The revelation hangs heavy. Jessica feels the stakes rising, but she's not backing down. The next day, they drive to Margaret Pierce's estate in Westchester. The old woman sits in a plush armchair, her silver hair pulled tight. "What do you want?" she asks, her voice sharp. Daniel cuts in. "The truth about Mom and Dad." Margaret's eyes flicker. "It was an accident." Jessica steps forward, holding out the email printout. "This says otherwise." Margaret reads it, her hands trembling slightly. She sighs. "I hated your mother, Daniel. She wasn't one of us. I said things I shouldn't have, and others took advantage." Daniel's voice hardens. "You let them die." Margaret looks away. "I didn't mean for it to happen." The confession cracks something in Daniel. He storms out, leaving Jessica with Margaret. "He'll forgive you," Jessica says quietly. Margaret shakes her head. "He shouldn't." Jessica leaves, finding Daniel by the car, his fists clenched. "I'm sorry," she says, touching his arm. He doesn't pull away. "You're not her," he murmurs, echoing their last talk. "But you're here." She nods and they stand there, the silence binding them closer than words. Days later, Vanessa strikes. Rumors spread online. Jessica Monroe, Pierce Designs intern, a gold digger in disguise. Clients call, outraged. Jessica's stomach drops as she reads the posts. She's lying, she tells Daniel in his office. He nods. I know, she's desperate. Jessica's anger flares. I won't let her ruin me. She doubles down on her freelance work, sketching late into the night. A big commission comes in, $10,000 for a series inspired by her double life. She adds it to the orphanage fund, now at $30,000. It's a small victory, but it fuels her. One evening, Daniel invites her to his penthouse again. The city sparkles below, a sea of lights. He pours wine, his mood softer. You're good at this, he says, gesturing to her sketches on the table. Better than Margaret ever was. Jessica smiles faintly. I'm not her. He steps closer. I know. The air shifts, charged. He tells her more. Margaret was an artist too, his muse before the crash. She'd like you, he says. Jessica meets his gaze. I'm not here to replace her. I'm here for you. He touches her hand, a quiet moment stretching between them. Their bond deepens, but danger closes in. Thomas Grayson watches from afar, his rivalry with Daniel turning personal. One night, Jessica wakes to her phone buzzing. It's Daniel. Get out now, he says, voice urgent. She hears tires screech outside. Before she can move, a car rams into Daniel's parked SUV down the street. She runs to the window, heart pounding. He's not there, but the message is clear. Someone wants him gone. Hours later, he calls again. I'm fine. Meet me at the hospital. She grabs her coat and rushes out, fear clawing at her. At the hospital, Daniel lies in a bed, bruised but alive. Thomas, he mutters, his eyes dark. He's behind this. Jessica sits beside him, her hand finding his. We'll stop him. He nods, wincing. The crash scrambled his mind, memories jumbled. Tell me about us, he says, confused. She starts with the rain, the dollar, their talks. His gaze softens as she speaks, pieces clicking back. You're the one I need, he says, gripping her hand. She stays until dawn, their connection stronger than ever, forged in the chaos. Jessica sits by Daniel's hospital bed, the steady beep of machines filling the silence. His hand rests in hers, warm despite the bruises on his face. The crash left him shaken, his mind a fog of half-remembered moments, but her stories have started to bring him back. Dawn creeps through the window, casting pale light over the room. Thomas did this, he says again, his voice rough but certain. Jessica nods, her jaw tight. We'll stop him. She's not just Margaret anymore, not just an intern. She's part of this now, tied to Daniel by more than a contract. He squeezes her hand, a silent agreement. They're in this together. Hours later, Daniel's discharged, still unsteady but refusing to rest. I need to get to the office, he says, pulling on his jacket. Jessica frowns. You're hurt. He meets her eyes. Thomas wants Pierce Designs. He won't wait. She sees the fire in him, the same determination she's felt since that rainy night. Then I'm coming too, she says. They drive to Midtown, the city waking up around them. At Pierce Designs, Ryan waits in the lobby, his face pale. Thomas is calling a board meeting, he says. He's pushing to take over while you're down. Daniel curses under his breath. We need a plan. In Daniel's office, Jessica pulls out the contract she signed weeks ago. This says, I'm your associate. What if we use it? She asks. Daniel tilts his head. Go on. She takes a breath. Make me your wife, on paper. It gives me legal standing to fight for you. Ryan blinks, surprised, but Daniel nods slowly. A fake marriage. It could work. He calls his lawyer, drafting a document in hours. Jessica signs, her hands steady. Jessica Pierce? She says, testing the name. Daniel smirks faintly. It suits you. The move is bold, a shield against Thomas, but it feels real in a way she doesn't expect. The board meeting looms the next day. Jessica spends the night preparing, digging through files for leverage. She finds an old report. Thomas tried to buy Pierce Designs a decade ago, just before the crash that killed Daniel's parents. It's not proof, but it's a thread. She shows Daniel. He's been after this company forever, she says. He stares at the page, his face hard. Then we bury him. They call Ryan, forming a plan. Jessica will face the board, using her new status to hold the line until Daniel recovers fully. At noon, Jessica walks into the Midtown conference room, her navy dress sharp against the gray suits of the board. Thomas sits at the head, smirking. "What's this? The intern playing boss," he says, his voice dripping with scorn. Jessica stands tall. "I'm Daniel Pierce's wife, legally. I'm here to protect this company." Murmurs ripple through the room. Thomas laughs. "A sham marriage won't save him." She sets the contract on the table. "It's binding, check it." The board hesitates, glancing at Ryan, who nods. "She's right," he says. Thomas's smirk fades, but he recovers. "Fine, let's vote." Jessica speaks, her voice steady. "I know I'm not who you expect, but I've seen what Pierce Designs means to Daniel. Thomas wants it for himself, not for you." She lays out the old report, hinting at his past greed. The board shifts, uncertain. Ryan backs her up, detailing Thomas's recent moves, shady deals with suppliers. The vote teeters, but Jessica buys time. A temporary chairmanship for her, 30 days until Daniel returns. Thomas slams the table. "This isn't over," he storms out, defeated for now. Back at the penthouse, Jessica collapses onto the couch, exhausted. Daniel sits beside her, his strength returning. "You did it," he says, his voice soft. She smiles faintly. "We did it." He touches her hand, a quiet thanks. But the victory is short-lived. They still need proof against Thomas. Jessica pulls out her phone, texting her hacker friend again. "Check Grayson's accounts. Anything from 10 years ago." The reply comes fast. "Found a payment to a driver, dated the crash night." She shows Daniel, her pulse racing. "This ties him to your parents." They drive to Westchester again, confronting Margaret Pierce. Jessica holds out the evidence. "Did you know?" she asks. Margaret's face crumples. "I suspected. Thomas hated your father, Daniel. I said things that fueled him. I'm sorry." Daniel's voice shakes. "You let them die." Margaret nods, tears falling. "I was wrong." He turns away, pain etched in his features. Jessica follows him outside. "We have what we need," she says. He nods, gripping her arm. "Let's end this." Days later, Daniel's memory sharpens. Jessica's stories, her presence, pull him back. At the penthouse, he listens as she recounts their first meeting, the dollar, the gala. "You stayed," he says, his eyes clear. "You're the one I need." She smiles, her heart full. They send the payment record to the police, triggering an investigation. Detectives raid Thomas's office, finding more. Emails, calls, a trail of guilt. Vanessa's involved too, her family's money in the mix. After a tense week, arrests come. Thomas and Vanessa are cuffed, their empires crumbling. Rachel Ford, exposed as Thomas's informant, flees the city, her taunts silenced. Jessica and Daniel stand in his office, the storm passing. "It's over," he says, pulling her close. She nods. "But there's more." "The orphanage," she says. "I've raised $40,000. It's not enough." Daniel looks at her, then calls his CFO. "Set up a Pierce Designs fund, $200,000 for the Brooklyn orphanage." Jessica stares. "You don't have to." He smiles, rare and genuine. "I want to." They plan a small wedding, not just on paper this time. At a quiet chapel, with Ryan as witness, they say vows that feel true. "You've given me a family," Daniel says, slipping a ring on her finger. She kisses him, the weight of their journey lifting. The days that follow are calm. Jessica moves into the penthouse, her sketches lining the walls. She quits the intern role, taking a design job at Pierce Designs. Her talent finally seen. The orphanage fund grows, repairs starting under her watch. One night, Daniel pulls her onto the balcony, the city sprawling below. "I was lost before you," he says. She leans into him. We found each other. They stand there, the past fading, their future bright. Jessica stands in the living room of Daniel's penthouse, her new home. The space feels different now, warmer, with her sketches framed on the walls and a few plants she insisted on adding. It's been a week since the wedding, a quiet ceremony with just Ryan and a handful of close friends. The ring on her finger catches the morning light, a simple band that means more than gold ever could. She's no longer the intern scraping by, no longer Margaret's shadow. She's Jessica Pierce, a name she's still getting used to, a life she's earned. Daniel walks in, coffee in hand, his bruises faded. "Morning," he says, kissing her forehead. She smiles. "Morning." They spend the day planning their next move. The orphanage in Brooklyn weighs on Jessica's mind. The $40,000 she raised through freelance work sits in an account, a start, but not enough. Daniel's $200,000 fund from Pierce Designs has kicked things off. Contractors already fixing the roof and plumbing. "I want to see it," she says over breakfast. He nods. "Let's go this afternoon." She feels a rush of gratitude. This isn't just about money anymore, it's about roots, about giving back to the place that shaped her. By noon, they're in a car heading to Brooklyn. The city shifts from glass towers to brick buildings. Familiar streets Jessica once walked as a kid. They pull up to the orphanage, a squat structure with chipped paint and a sagging porch. Kids play in the yard, their laughter cutting through the hume of traffic. Jessica steps out, her chest tight. She remembers cold nights here, shared blankets, dreams of something better. Daniel follows, his hand finding hers. A woman in her 50s, the director, greets them. "Jessica Monroe," she says, smiling. "Or Pierce, now, I hear." Jessica laughs. "Still me." The director leads them inside, showing off the progress. New pipes gleam in the bathrooms, and the roof no longer leaks. "Your fund's a miracle," she says. Jessica shakes her head. "It's just a start." She hands over a check, the $40,000 from her designs. "This is from me." The director's eyes widen. "You didn't have to." Jessica smiles. "I did." Daniel watches, quiet pride in his gaze. They walk the halls, kids tugging at Jessica's hands, asking about her drawings. She kneels, showing them sketches on her phone, promising to teach them one day. Outside, they load boxes of supplies from the car, clothes and books donated through Pierce Designs. The kids swarm, grabbing toys and cheering. Jessica hands a small girl a stuffed bear, her grin infectious. Daniel lifts a box, wincing slightly from his lingering injuries, but he doesn't stop. "You're good at this," she says, nudging him. He shrugs, a rare grin breaking through. "You're better." They work side by side, the sun dipping low, casting golden light over the yard. It's chaotic, messy, perfect. As the kids run off with their treasures, Jessica and Daniel sit on the porch steps. The air cools, the city settling into dusk. He takes her hand, his thumb brushing her ring. "You're not a stand-in anymore," he says, his voice soft. "You're everything." She leans into him, her head on his shoulder. "We made it." The words hang between them, heavy with all they've survived. The rain, the crash, the lies. She thinks of that dollar bill, the moment that started it all. It's still in her old coat pocket, a keepsake of how far she's come. They drive back as night falls, the skyline lighting up. In the penthouse, Jessica stands at the window, Daniel behind her, arms around her waist. "From $1, we built a life," she says, half to herself. He kisses her neck. "You built it, I just followed." She turns, meeting his eyes, and kisses him, slow and sure. The city hums below, a world they've conquered together. The past, with its ghosts and betrayals, fades into memory. Thomas and Vanessa are gone, locked away. Rachel's taunts are silent. Margaret Pierce, the grandmother, stays in Westchester, her guilt her own to carry. The next morning, Jessica starts her new job at Pierce Designs, not as an intern but as a junior designer. Her sketches line her desk, a portfolio of her own making. Daniel walks by, pausing to look. "They're good," he says. She grins. I know. He lingers, a quiet moment in the busy office. Ryan pops in, teasing, "You two are disgusting." Jessica laughs, throwing a pencil at him. Life feels light, steady, hers. Weeks pass, and the orphanage thrives. Jessica visits often, teaching the kids to draw, watching the place transform. Daniel joins when he can, his ties loosened, his guard down. One evening, they stand outside, the building freshly painted, kids playing under new lights. "This is ours," she says, her voice full. He nods. Ours. The sun sets, painting the sky gold, and they walk away, hands linked. The journey from shadows to spotlight is complete. A story of love and legacy, etched in every step they take.